Neuroscientists have been studying the brain for decades, but one part of it remains shrouded in mystery: the claustrum. The claustrum is highly connected to other parts of the brain, so much so.
They call it the claustrum, and you have to think Santa Claus because it brings presents down the chimney. Not ENTS, presence, like being in the present moment. Okay.
That Nobel laureate and DNA pioneer Dr. Francis Crick believed the claustrum may be the seat of human consciousness.
In the brain, in the cranium,
This is Santos Bonacci speaking. He is very great. He's an awesome dude.
there is the cerebrum. And in the cerebrum, and in particular the claustrum is sitting right there in the middle of the head, virtually. From the claustrum, there is a secretion, brain fluid. And this fluid is an oil. And in ancient times, this fluid in Greek is called Christos. It's called the Christ. It's this beautiful fluid which comes from the cerebrum and pours down the spinal cord.
In us, in all of us, we have 150 milliliters of cerebrospinal fluid inside our brain, covering the outside of our brain, within the central canal of our spinal cord and around our spinal cord. We're all making this fluid, and it's bathing our entire brain. It's bathing all the insides of our brain, the outsides of our brain. The central canal, the spinal cord actually has a central canal.
And in the beginning, we're covered in amniotic fluid. And then when we're born and we come out into this external world, the amniotic fluid runs inside us. So what used to protect us in an outer layer is now still exists, but within us, okay?
That is bathed completely with CSF all the way down the spinal cord. And the CSF goes, and it actually goes all the way outside the spinal cord, all the way down to the sacrum.
The word secret comes from secretion, because this secretion is a secret. And the sacrum is the sacred part of the secret. As the
sacred secrum, sacred secrum, yo, sacred secret, and then sacrum, sacred. You're starting to see like how these particular words or verbiage, how it lines up. Okay.
Secretion pours down the spinal cord and reaches the sacrum. This is the marvelous way in which our body has been designed. And the spinal cord is basically just an extension of the brain. It also does thinking.
The fluid is known to transmit light. It can transmit vibration. It can transmit flow, so flow from the fluid, and it can even translate molecules.
What happens with this fluid is that every month when the moon is in the sign where your sun was when you were born, every month there is a germ or a seed planted in the solar plexus.
Born in Bethlehem, or the house of bread, the solar plexus,
which is just above the sacral plexus. And that germ is the oil, the Christ, which is born in Bethlehem, because the solar plexus is otherwise known as Bethlehem, where the Christ is born. And that oil needs to return whence it came, in the midbrain. You see, as the oil ascends the spinal cord, the vibration of the oil of the Christ increases. And you see, first of all, the oil is differentiated in the pineal gland and the pituitary gland before it is sent down the spinal cord.
Yeah, apparently the oil is made somewhere else. I think I don't want to say it wrong, so I don't know. But it goes from one of these areas in the brain, and then it splits into some oil going to the pineal, some going to the pituitary. When it's there, that oil is then changed. So it was initially the same oil, apparently, and then it's changed into two separate oils, the land that flows with what? Milk and honey that they talk about in the Bible. Melatonin, oxytocin, one of them has like DMT in it, things like that. So it's a brew of these chemicals, right? So check this out.
Gland is the electric portion, and the pituitary gland is the magnetic portion. So the oil is differentiated, and it is brought down the spinal cord via the Pingala and the Ida nerves. These are what is otherwise known as the Kundalini and the Kundabhatha. So it arrives at the sacral plexus.
If you've ever seen anything like that, like tattoos on people's back, I wonder why they got it over their spinal cord with the double helix looking pattern. I'm sure it's not a shout out to the fact that they've been initiated into these mystery schools, or self initiation, which is a common practice as well, where you don't join an external group and they don't teach you this. You learn it on your own. You go through it on your own. You become illuminated on your own. That's what I did.
And waits for the germinating of the seed once a month, 12 times a year. And if we are able to transmute that seed and cause it to rise, as it rises in the spinal cord, it eventually reaches the medulla oblongata and the pons and the midbrain, and it crosses the vagus nerve, otherwise known as the pneumogastric nerve. It's a nerve which descends from the brain area, from the pineal and pituitary.
Let's look at it. Cerebellum, spinal, right? So it goes down in the middle, and then it goes from the middle all the way to the back part of this. You see the white thing that goes like that in the middle, and it carries it down, right? That oil drops through various ventricles, goes down the spinal cord, goes to the base. It's chilling, then it rises back up. That is its ascent to the heaved up place, or the heaven, or the heavens, which is your brain, Aries,
glands, respectively, and it feeds the lungs and the stomach. It's a network of nerves, and this network of nerves is called the tree of life. When the oil arrives at the very, very top, there awaiting is the optic thalamus, an
the light of the world
organ.
Ooh.
This is your brain when you're struggling to focus, and this is your brain when you're in the zone. But getting in the zone and staying there, that
egg-shaped cool organ in the middle of the head. When
the light of the world,
this pneumogastric nerve, this is called the crucifixion. The oil is not killed and destroyed, but it is magnified 1,000-fold. And the oil then touches the optic thalamus, and for 2.5 days remains in a condition that is called dead, that is considered to be dead, and then reaches the pineal gland after 2.5 days and illuminates the optic thalamus and the pineal gland. The optic thalamus was known as the light of the world by the Egyptians and the Greeks because they knew their physiology and anatomy, and they knew that this precious oil which descended.
The only downside to doing this on your own is you might be off by a little bit, but the process felt very natural to me. I had learned about this about 60 to 90 days prior for the very first time, and within 2 to 3 months, I was able to tap into the sacred secretion. It's difficult, though, because I had only looked at a few videos, so I didn't know all that I know right now. And I pushed it down. Then when I raised it back up, it was through long exhalations, and it raised the oil a little bit. I could feel it pumping up through my spine, through my chakras. Eventually, after about 30 minutes plus of trying to raise it back up, because it took a while for me, maybe other people are different. I don't know. I can only say what I lived, the experience I lived. When it eventually reached my brain, boom, super consciousness. I don't recall having it hit the first part of my brain, and then 2 to 3 days later, I pushed it a little further up, and then it reached I don't recall that. So this part that he's explaining, maybe my body pushed it all the way to the pineal gland initially anyways. Maybe it didn't stop at the optic thalamus. Maybe I completed the trip like right away. So that's the only thing that I can think of off the top of my head. But
from the claustrum, from the cerebrum, and was differentiated in the pineal and pituitary glands, and descended the spinal cord. They knew that it would ascend eventually, and that the enlightened portion of mankind were able to cause this Christ oil to ascend so that it would ascend to the optic thalamus and cause it to be lightened. What in turn happens is that millions of brain cells that were dormant are now awakened. You see, the oil that descends from the cerebrum is known otherwise as the manna from heaven. You see, because heaven means heaved up. And the head, the cranium, the dome which sits on top of the torso, that was known as the heavens. And the heart area and the heart chakra was known as the Midgard, or the middle garden. And the generative area was known as Sodom and Gomorrah, the area of desire, animal desire, otherwise known as Egypt and hell and the world, etc.
The lower nature.
Whereas the Garden of Eden and the land flowing with milk and honey, that's upstairs. In fact, the pineal gland produces the honey, a secretion known as honey, which has DMT, and the pituitary body secretes the milk. This is the milk and honey. And the land flowing with milk.
I'm pretty sure the land that flows with milk and honey, I'm pretty sure it is melatonin and oxytocin. But the melatonin also has some DMT in there. So that's why he says has DMT. He doesn't say it is 100% DMT and only that. He says has DMT in it, okay? Because it's a brew of chemicals. I used to think it was just two, milk and honey, but one of them seems to be holding more than one in it. So that could bring it to a total of three or more, for all I know. And it's one that changes into the other as well. Just so you know, melatonin turns into serotonin or vice versa. Maybe it's serotonin that turns into melatonin. I think that's the right way about it, because serotonin is just like feel-good chemical in our body, similar to that of dopamine, but they're quite there is a difference, okay? But that's serotonin. Melatonin is what makes us calm, chill, go to bed, so that we wake up with the circadian rhythm intact, okay?
Milk and honey is upstairs. This is a sacred secret, simply because the secretion which comes from the sacral plexus is one of the most important things that we need to know for physiological regeneration. The ancients used to live for thousands of years by protecting and keeping this secret and guarding it. The Egyptians built ascension chambers, pyramids, for this very purpose. And they taught the science of respecting and keeping and guarding and looking after this beautiful oil. And if you know the Gospels well, you will know all the scriptures that are referring to
I am the light of the world.
I am the light of the world. He that
Oh, but I thought they also called the optic thalamus the light of the world, where the Christ raises to heaven to go to. Ooh, it's starting to sound a little more metaphorical. Not that the Bible's not literal as well. My philosophy, it's a real story. Jesus was a real person. There's nothing fake about it. But in those stories, they were able to tell other stories. That is where metaphorical comes from. That is where deeper meaning to everything comes from, okay?
follows me shall not walk in darkness. The light of the world is the optic thalamus. Keep your eye simple, for if your eye is dark, your whole body will be dark. You see, the cerebrum is hollowed out, and the midbrain and the limbic system at the top of the spinal cord is the holy of holies. And the cerebellum, which sits at the back of the brain, this is otherwise known as the small brain. The cerebrum is associated with the top of the head, Aries, and the cerebellum is associated with Taurus, and the left brain, the male left brain.
Mm-hmm.
The right brain is the feminine, and it is connected to the cerebrum, Aries, the God brain.
Sun, moon, masculine, feminine, left brain, right brain, electric, magnetic, Joseph, Mary, Ida, Pingala. It keeps going. You see what I'm saying? Like, it literally keeps going.
So we have the God man.
It might be Pingala and Ida. Actually, I don't know. If we're talking masculine, feminine, like left, right, left, right, left, right. Okay. But anyways, let's go.
Is the cerebrum, the Adam man is the cerebellum. In the past, people have lived for thousands of years by preserving and conserving this oil and transmuting it so that it reaches the optic thalamus.
Yeah.
See what happens when the oil reaches the optic thalamus is that new blood is generated in the body.
What the
Until
fuck
such
happened to
time
my eye?
as this process has occurred, we will...
Yo, what is up with my eye, dog? No, not cool. I don't fucking know. That's not
We
cool,
have
dude.
old, toxic blood in our physical organisms. And in order to regenerate and produce new blood, the oil must be raised to the optic thalamus, and healing can occur. The millions of dormant brain cells are reactivated because we all have these dormant brain cells in our brains. And in the Bible, this is known as tithing. You see, this is why the Bible says you must return 1/10 to the Lord.
To the Lord.
Remember, the
Gold.
Lord, the Lord, refers to the gold. This is how we turn lead into.
And God and gold, there's only one letter off. You just throw an L in there. You're raising from base material to the highest form of spiritual super consciousness you could even conceive. And the human body is more than capable of doing this. You are more than capable of doing this. I have already done it 5 times in 2023. It is time for me to tap back in with my God consciousness.
Gold.
I don't know how, if we would even be together if it wasn't for therapy, honestly. It's like we're either saying that we're breaking up or we're doing therapy. You pick.
Refers to the gold. This is how we turn lead into gold. Spinal cord is like a thermometer. And as the mercury rises with warmth, the more so with enlightenment and consciousness and knowledge, we are able to raise the condition of this oil. And as it climbs the spine and ascends, it raises its vibration. In fact, when it gets crucified at the top of the spine where the pneumogastric nerve is crossed, this does not mean death. This means, crucifixion means to multiply 1,000-fold. And you see, not only is physical regeneration a result of this, but also spiritual
because the vibration of that oil with the carrying the seed, the Christ, it amplifies. Think that little seed is probably amplified too because it's in the oil. When you carry it back to the brain and it hits the brain, it's like a messenger carrying a lost message that finally makes it to its intended target, right? And when that happens, boom. Now, because it's vibrating so high, now it goes to the brain, it's going to make the brain vibrate so high. When that happens, millions of these dormant brain cells wake up and go, oh, okay, I got to start doing stuff. Cool. And your whole brain goes into overdrive. You start overanalyzing everything. Your intelligence, forget about it. Whatever they think your resting IQ is at, poof, poof, bro, bump that up an extra 30 to 100 points. It's no fucking joke. You're going to be tapped in to source energy. I mean, this is what I believe to be the energy that created everything that we see around us, other than what humans have created. I'm talking into a cell phone right now that was created by a fucking human. But I'm talking about like the trees, the birds, bees, leaves, oxygen, everything like that. All the chemicals on the periodic table that were found in nature, that were found in rock and sediment, all this stuff that's always existed, right? Something created that, and you can learn to tap into the highest source, which in my opinion is God. So no, I don't see God as necessarily this guy in the sky like, ye shall have my wrath. Like, I don't buy all that fucking shit. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I'm a Catholic and a Christian. I just don't see God like that. I see God as an energetic, life-sustaining, life-fulfilling energy. I don't know how to explain it. Like I don't think he's as limited to the confines of physicality as we are. And I think when we learn to transcend these lower 3D based realities and increase, and you'll hear people call it the 5D. I don't know if I agree with all that either, but I do know for sure that they're onto something, because we're going to a higher state of consciousness, a higher plane of being, and that starts in the mental plane and then the astral field. That's it.
Generation. And one is able to experience the higher mind and clairvoyance. You see, mediumship occurs down in the solar plexus. There are 4 brains in the human body. The cerebrum, what is otherwise known as the God brain, the cerebellum, which is the man brain, the medulla oblongata, which is responsible for the
gut, right?
involuntary actions in the body, such as breathing and blood
sacral
circulation.
Or something.
And the 4th brain is the solar plexus.
Solar, not sacral.
Which is more related to the animal instinctive brain, which receives images from the ether, from the air, just like the animals do. We have the claustrum.
So I don't know if what he's touching base upon is when we have a gut instinct of something, you get a gut feeling, and we call it that. He's saying even animals have that too. Life forms have that. I don't know if plants have that because plants aren't really whatever you want to call sentient or whatever. I'm trying to find a better word. They're not expressive in the way that like dogs, cats, humans. Like it's different. It's a different type of living organism. There's a word that's not coming to my brain right now, but you know.
You have the cerebrum, the covering angels, the cherubim, which cover over, because the cerebrum covers over the cerebellum.
There's a part in the brain in the middle that looks just like an angel with wings right here and an angel with wings right here. So it's like this. Hello, that looks just like the Ark of the Covenant, the way it's described. So God, the presence of God resides in the centerpiece that the angel's wings are over. So God is here, buddy. That's why they're making fun of you, bro. That what's this called? The temple, the temple, the temple of God. Bro, that it's smacking you right in the face and you're like, beep ba doop ba doop doop. Oh, come on, yo. We're better than that.
And the midbrain, and the optic thalamus, and the pineal gland, and the pituitary gland, otherwise known as Joseph and Mary. You see, these two are the ones that are responsible for sending the oil down the spinal cord. And they are the ones that await the return of their son, who is born in Bethlehem, the solar plexus. Once a month.
Beautiful.
You see, living...
Once you start making these connections, it's so beautiful. Oh my God. This is why I said he's such a great man. Now, I saw him recently and he was like talking trash about like Catholics and Christians or whatever. I get it. He believes that everything in the Bible is metaphorical and that it has to do with astrology. I get it. So I understand where he's coming from. And because I understand where he's coming from, I'm not too mad. I'd be more mad if it was some rando saying that and I'd feel disrespected. But because I know his work and where his brain goes, I understand he doesn't believe in what I believe. That's fine. We're here to talk and have dialogue, and I still see the beauty in his work. I'm not going to say, oh, his whole work's a joke because he said something that offended me. That would be, I don't even want to say awfully feminine of me because it's not that. It's more so childish. You know, I can see that everybody's different, and because we're all different, he can have his own opinions. Do I have to agree with everything he says? No, but his work, his line of work, is very accurate, and I think it's great. So, anyways, learning how to not let your ego get bruised. Okay.
Riotously overeating, consuming too much alcohol. These are poisons to the oil. These dry up the oil. And once the oil is dried up, the human organism dies. It cannot live without the oil that comes from the cerebrum. This beautiful fluid, the crystalline dew, which comes from the heaved up place, the heaven, and it comes down to the sacrum, the secretion, which is the secret, the sacred secret of the Christ within. The Holy Land is within, people.
The Holy Land of Jerusalem everywhere. That they talked about that Nile River, the flowing waters, or to separate the waters from above. That's the fluid up in your brain, bro. And then, like, just like as within, so without. So what's happening on the inside of our physical vessels as human beings, it's mirrored. It's often mirrored on the outside in our outer world. So you see the firmament over the earth, and you see this. It's just incredible. You see everything mirrored. Walnuts, they're very good for your brain and brain health, and they look like the human brain. Coincidence? I think not. I think we have a very intuitive and ingenious creator. Okay.
The Holy Land is the body. The Jordan River is the spinal cord. You see, Jesus gets baptized at the age of 30 and crucified at the age of 33. These correspond to the bones of the vertebrae. And as we progress with that oil by degree...
When God came down into human form, he lived for 33 years. God made us in his image. So guess what? He died at 30. He lived, so 33 years of life. We have 33 vertebrae in our spine, representing each year that Jesus was on this earth. There's much more to it than that. The things that hold our cells together are shaped like crosses. I don't know. There's more too. I'm going to get carried away.
We get our degrees. You see, we graduate with high honors.
I am going to get carried away. The 12 disciples plus the SUN, the SO plus the SON. So the SON of God plus 12 disciples, or the SUN of God in the sky with the 12 zodiacs. So you start to see these mirrored images within the readings, okay?
And degrees. The degrees are referring to the spinal cord. And if we stay in the sacrum, sacred though it is, we do not ever climb Jacob's ladder to the place which Jacob called pineal.
Pineal.
You see in Genesis.
Woo! And what did he, when he went to pineal, he saw God face to face. That's right. He actually met God. The presence of God was finally felt, and he experienced what God really is, okay, when he had this activation. So people know this, and they've worked really hard at making a dumbed down society with calcified fluoridated pineal glands. You know what I'm saying? And they're like, yes, we must separate them from unity consciousness. Yes, we must separate them from God. Oh, and it's not just this, by the way. They do this, and then they work really hard to make sure that what you take in through your eye gates and your ear gates, they make sure that they work really hard to make sure that everything they push is degenerate and separates you from God and holiness. Why do you think that I'm not going to get into it. Everything that I could bring up that could get... You know where I was going to go.
Jacob laid his head upon a stone. That stone is the 5 fused bones of the sacrum, where the seed is born. The Bible's this wonderful book, and I've been endeavoring to share with humanity that it is a wonderful book. And it is a manual of astronomical, as above, so below phenomena. It's wonderful, wonderful, legendary, mythological, allegorical information. And in fact, the Apostle Paul in Galatians chapter 4, verse 25 says that the Bible stories are allegories for greater teachings. Now, the Christ within, what is the Christ within? Well, you see, the creation of the human body is one of the most wonderful creations in the universe. We have a wonderful brain, a heart, we have a generative system, a limbic system, nervous system, muscular, skeletal, tissue, lymphatic system. It's
Tree of life.
Quite an amazing organism. It's just exquisite.
We have a maker, and he wants us to intimately know him through our connection, through our divine connection. You have evil people on this planet who want to sever our connection to source. Don't let them do it. That's all I got in this one. Until next time, stay safe, be blessed, and live lavishly. It's been your boy Sigma the Stigma, and thanks for stopping by and checking out an episode of Sigma Reacts. Until next time, just know that I love you all. Peace, and God bless you. Peace, guys, ladies and gentlemen. Any second.